is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. With me today, I have Adam Duong, who has over $400,000 in tournament winnings, and the biggest score being 46th place in the 2019 World Series of Poker main event last year for over or just under $173,000. You're actually a professional cash game player, and you play all the biggest games in the Bay Area and Sacramento. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Good to be here.
Now, you're one of those people that stands out for me. You're one of my friends, but you've silently been crushing the cash game scene in the Bay Area and in Sacramento for years now. And I've seen your transformation with your weight and with your exercise and with your game. And I think a lot of poker players would like to know some of the strategies that you've obtained just to make it as far as you have. And I think it's very difficult, especially in the Bay Area, to be playing as high of stakes as you play and be able to survive. So let's get right into it. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. A little nervous, but really excited to be here.
So tell me, where do you normally play? Like, I know, but just tell the viewers where you're normally playing at.
Pretty much every day I'll be playing at Bay 101. I used to split my time between Matrix and Bay, but Bay 101 just seems to get more foot traffic. And then Thursdays, I either go to Manteca or Sacramento because I seem to get a 1025 game at those places.
So you're playing in all the biggest games that the casinos run. You've had some longevity in the game. Have you seen that people who are not changing or improving their bankroll management or studying on a regular basis and not doing all of these things that you need to stay in the game, do you see like the population being a bit more transient, or like how have you seen the high stakes cash games change over the years?
I think these days the high stakes players are working very hard on their games, and like you see people that are moving up a lot faster in stakes, whereas back then it felt like I was the only one that was moving up stakes besides maybe a couple other regulars that I currently now play with.
Yeah, so I see you and your group of friends are always studying, are big into a healthy lifestyle. So let's just, let's get into it. With poker, you're actually, I know you, like you and I are friends and we have the same friends group, and you're very well respected among the Sacramento and the San Jose and Bay Area poker community. You've been playing high stakes, the biggest games that they run out here, and you've been successful at it all. What was, like, you have a nice come up story, and I'm trying to unpack it all, but like first break it down for us how you transitioned from a low stakes cash game player to starting to win and moving on to higher stakes.
Okay, well, I'll say I started my career playing in Sacramento 1-3. I used to play like 1-3 at like an 18 over casino, but that was more like work on my parents' restaurant, like, lose a few $100 there and then work on my parents' restaurant again. But when I finished high school and decided to take a couple years off, that was pretty much when I decided like I needed to buckle down and like really work hard because I'm choosing not to work anymore. Right. And playing 1-3 in Sacramento in 2011, I think everybody can relate to me in the fact that they just play some, lose some, like try to watch like some YouTube video on poker and then like keep repeating that cycle. And eventually I got pretty lucky in the sense that I met a couple really good players from UC Davis, and we just became friends and like talked a lot of poker, and they pretty much just taught me how to bet fold at 1-3, which was...
Who was this?
This was actually Patrick Laffey and Julian Lacrosse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were crushing those stakes. And I was like, man, these guys are definitely doing something right. Like, because I kept seeing them in there and they were just killing the games. And so they pretty much just taught me everything I knew in those like my early years. And then I was really lucky in the sense that I lived with my parents and my expenses were zero. And so as long as I was good with my money, I was able to pretty much just keep whatever I won. And I decided to, because I know I have a couple of friends that took the route of like, oh, they won at 1-3 for the year. I'm going to go shot take 2-5 or 5-10 now. I decided to play at least 5,000 hours at 1-3 to see if I was truly beating the game and how much I was actually winning in those games before I moved up. And I knew after 5 hours I'd have some decent six-figure roll, some small six-figure roll. And yeah, I mean, everything kind of came to fruition for me when I moved to the Bay Area in 2015. And that's where I started playing 2-5 at the Oaks when I moved there for college. And then started playing pretty much a $10 straddle game at Bay 101 in Matrix in 2016. And it's funny because I'm just giving stakes move ups, but like I'm not explaining like how these things have come to happen. It's just a lot of like playing and then studying. Like when I say study, just talking to like good professionals, because that's kind of all the studying I had back then. Like I think I only started using solvers and like, you know, coaching videos in the last like 2 years.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I think back in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, there were like 2010-ish, there were like a lot of poker strategy books out there that were not like they are now. I spoke with Andrew and Andrew Barber, and he alluded to the fact that some of the best poker books have been written in the last year and a half, and that like some of those early poker books were, you know, not really teaching us any good strategies. So what, like, I can understand that not a lot of people had resources that were making them better. And so you had a group of friends that were really good poker players. So when did you start? I know you watch Run It Once. I think that's a training site that you use. When did you start getting more serious about strategies and learning poker in a more methodical way?
Probably when I started playing 10-20 and higher, because when I was playing 1-3, 2-5, and 5-10, like I think exploits are more than good enough to make you a decent profit. But when you start running into people who are playing very similar to yourself or playing methodically, you need to find some sort of edge. But against somebody who's solid, like it's very hard to find a leak of theirs. Like, I mean, I'm not like some sicko by any means. So like, I don't notice the very, very small things against those guys. So I started realizing that I'm gonna get crushed if like I don't start understanding theory of poker.
So you're using solvers. How long have you been using solvers for?
A year, maybe a
A
year and a
year.
half.
Um, for someone who's just starting to come up, what would you say the pathway would be to getting to like a 10-25 or 25-50 game? Like at what point do you think it would be beneficial to use solvers?
So I play live poker, and I think solvers are way less helpful at kind of like beating live poker because not everybody is playing like a robot. But I know a lot of good professionals use solvers, so they're trying to imitate what these solvers are doing in terms of like bet sizing and like what ranges to bet in certain spots. So it's good to know like what another pro is looking at. It kind of helps me like understand when a good player is trying to, let's call it quote unquote, play well or play optimally. It because it's so, I'm not explaining this well.
No, it makes sense. So you're basically you have to play more perfect like a robot against the better players, which you're going to run into at the bigger games. It sounds like what you're saying.
Yes, but my overall strategy against like recreationals or whatever like is nothing solver approved. Like it's
Okay.
completely different than what solvers are doing. And even against some professionals like live, like some, you know, every professional I play with live are not playing like solvers, and they do small things that are not solver approved that I have to pick up on.
Are
So
you talking about like tells,
exploits.
or how much weight? So I asked Andrew this. How much weight do you put on tells? Because everyone talks about a GTO theory. And then there's like a lot of argument with this whole Mike Postle thing. The people who are still on in his camp are saying, well, he's a live read player. And I'm just like, how much is that? How much of that is a thing? Like you still have to be somewhat playing within your ranges. You still have to somewhat understand position and not just, call a 3-bet in the small blind with an 8 high. What do you
So
think?
I think like, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's solvers in the world, but like ultimately, like you're still gonna have to sit there and play poker. You're still gonna have to have all these hours logged in to have all this, so you have all this experience and understand what people are trying to do. Like, I know like a lot of people give like Berkey heat because he just plays so different than everybody else, but like I think it's a good twist in the game. Do I think he's playing better than me or worse than me? I have no idea. But
I would say like if I were to think about, and I'm just alluding to what Berkey might be thinking, I would say that like he would look at the situation in a vacuum. Maybe in one hand he'd outplay you, but in the next you'd outplay him, and it would kind of be that back and forth. I don't know if we can say overall who's better or worse, right?
I like that he's open to possibility. Like some people are like, "Oh, you never three bet this ever. This is like a dumb hand to three bet with, or you should never cold call, like suited connectors on the button to open in a three bet. It's just bad." Like I don't like the regs that just kind of like push it off. Like there's no way like this is ever good. Whereas I think Berkey actually like can find some good reasons to make some let's call it unorthodox plays.
So I kind of feel like in the real world that has a good application also. And when you talk to me about pros who are like living in an absolute area where they absolutely will not do one thing, or that they always will do another, it kind of seems like those kinds of people get left behind when the game changes and adapts and evolves. And it's the same thing like in tech. If someone does something the same way for 10 years, they're going to be left behind because it's changed like 50 times since they first learned how to do something. So
I think the people that I'll just say they cap their like potential. Like they're still gonna make a decent amount of money. Like the guy that's just showing up every day doing the same thing for 10 years. Staying in that kind of like circle. He's gonna make his money regardless. But I think the true potential comes in being able to like do something a little bit different than what the norm is, while still following a very solid guideline of like good poker. It's kind of like it's like a happy medium.
so tell me what kind of strategies you use when you're like running terrible and you just can't win a hand and you've had 3 losing sessions in a row. Like what kinds of things are you going to do so that you don't spaz out or tilt?
Well, my mentality is always like stay if the game's good. Don't if the game is no matter how I'm running, if the game is a game where I'm making a lot of money, pretty much if the game's action, I don't leave. And I've been in games where I've been insanely tilted and losing a lot and playing bad, and I'll force myself to stay because I think it's good to show up. It's like a mental discipline thing. Um, if I can't perform, let's at my hmm, if I can't perform when I'm like kind of tilted, like how am I gonna like approach life? Because life's not always gonna be like, bright and sunny outside. And that's why like lately when it's been raining outside, I've been going out running. And I never put it on Instagram, by the way, because I don't need people knowing that I'm doing that. Like it's more for myself. And I'm sorry.
No, no, no.
uh,
I think that's great because like I think that's the opposite of what most poker players will tell you to do. They'll say, "Oh, if you're tilted, just get up and leave and go call it a day." And you're like, "No, if the game is good, I'm staying." And that's actually quite interesting because that's like a very economical way to achieve your goals, because like it's like the taxi driver strategy, where taxi drivers in New York, the ones who did the best, would work the most on days where they were the most busiest, where they were where they had the most customers, rather than doing a certain amount of hours every day. So rather than fluctuating their hours, like if, like you said, the game's good, you stay and you put in more hours, and when the games are bad, you don't play as much, that will maximize your expected value. And that's the same for taxi drivers. They'll make more money in a longer shift on a good day, and then they take the day off that other people are putting in their 8 hours and grinding. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. You know,
Staggering around the good games.
I'm not playing poker to work 9 to 5. I'm working to play my own schedule.
Yeah, but it's more like maximizing your EV. Like, when the games are good, you stay.
Yes.
And then like if there's like no game, then you can, or a bad game, you can like go home and like go running or something. So let's talk about bankroll management, because I'm sure that there are a lot of talented people in poker that you've seen. I'm sure there's people just as smart as you and as talented and as hardworking as you that haven't survived because of bankroll management. Have you seen anything like that? Or can you talk to us about how you manage your bankroll?
I think I live my life pretty frugally. I do spend a decent amount of money on food, because food is one of those things that I value a lot. But in terms of like a car, like I'm okay just having something that moves and has AC.
Yeah, I know. We had this talk and I was like, hey, what kind of car do you have? And you're like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's silver out there. And I'm like, what? And you didn't even know what my car was. And I'm like, damn, he's
I still don't know
onto
what your car
something.
is.
It's an Audi.
I don't know what an Audi looks like.
Yeah, I mean,
I just asked my dad to help me find an economical car, and he helped me. So I was
yeah,
like,
I'm done with my midlife crisis now. So I'm going to go back to like a Honda Civic now. Probably like a 92 Honda Civic, so I could just buy it with cash and like leave it alone. But yeah, so you live frugally. You do spend money on things that are important, like food. What else do you do? Like
I'm trying to be.
how much do you take out of like what you make and put it into your regular life, and how much do you keep in your bankroll? Like, you don't have to tell me exact amount. You can just give me percentages.
I have some money in case something hits the fan. I have something in the neighborhood of like 6 months of expenses just kind of stowed away. Um, but other than that, like I just keep my money in just a variety of boxes and don't really think too much about it unless I am planning on investing in something. Like I bought a house last January with my brother. It's actually the house I'm here right now. And I have some money invested in Vanguard and some index funds. That's one of the things I'm still a big rookie at, but I'm planning on putting a decent amount of hours in to figure out like how to optimize my profile.
Yeah. You got any crypto?
Unfortunately, I have very little left. I exchanged a lot of it for like ACR money and just kind of like dispersed it amongst my friends.
So, have you seen people who've had terrible bankroll management just not be able to play in the stakes that they could be playing in?
I still see that every day. I've seen it for 12 years. People come and go. Like they do really well at the games. Like they buy something extravagant like a watch, or like I have friends that just stop playing for 6 months because they're like, oh, cool, I'm good. I wanted a little heater. And then all of a sudden when they start playing again, they need to win to cover expenses, and then they don't. And then like it just opens a can of worms because now they start asking for a stake, but then like that doesn't go well and they need to cover their life expenses. And then I've seen just nasty things happen.
So you need consistency. You need to be studying consistently. You need to be playing consistently. Now, a lot of people will want me to ask you, what do you think is a good role to be playing 1-3 at? Like, how much do you think someone will need to be comfortably playing 1-3?
Somebody with a steady job, or somebody quitting their job
who wants to play professionally
and is going to quit their job or work part-time or work full-time?
Is going to quit their job. Let's start with that.
Well, first off, you need to cover your expenses for the month. So if you're planning on quitting your job, make sure to figure out how much you're spending per month on everything before you quit. And then if you were to play 1-3, you need to cover those expenses and to make more money on top of that in order to grow your own role. So if you're doing that in San Jose, I'm gonna say it's not possible because it's so hard to.
Yeah, not 1-3.
Cost of living is so high in San Jose. Like if you're playing anything less than 2.5, you're gonna probably be struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'd say like a role that, because I'm a huge nit, like a role that's completely gambling. Like if you're in Sacramento and paying like 1K a month and spending like 1K more a month in like food and other stuff, I'm gonna say 1,500.
That's
2,500 in expenses. You're gonna need like at least 15K because you just never know what might happen. Like what if you just get in a car accident or something? I don't know. Like
what about 2.5?
Probably just probably just double that.
And 5-10?
Probably just double that again. just to keep
so
it just to keep it simple.
We're at 60,000 for 5-10.
Yeah.
And then 10-25, 25-50 type games, the biggest games that they play out here. What does someone need to be properly rolled for that game?
For 10-25, well, for 25-50, probably like 50 buy-ins, probably like 250K is reasonable if you're buying in 100 big, but if you're covering, then you're going to need a lot more.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have not a full understanding of how much, like to me, it sounds like a grind, maybe because I'm so far away and I have another career outside of poker, but it's like, it seems like such a grind to have to save up $250,000 just to play. And then you got to be frugal on top of that. So I think there's like a lot of misconceptions in poker about poker players being these degens or going to strip clubs and like blowing money because they're rich. And like also while they're playing, there's a lot of misconceptions that like you have to take like huge bluff lines all the time.
So I think in terms of the misconceptions that you find in the poker world in terms of like these degens, it depends where you're looking. I mean,
it's true.
that you can find them. They're around. And then you can also find some very bright people that like you're like, whoa, like this guy has life figured out. Like those are the guys I like to surround myself with. But I think amongst my friends, people think I play the least optimal or the least in accordance with the solver strategy, because all my friends are just huge on solvers. They all like speak in terms of solvers, and I like it. Like I think solver work is good, and like these guys are definitely making money. But like when I speak about my exploits on the field, they just like look at me funny, but they say, AD's probably good. He's doing something good.
Do you change your strat at all when you're going between tournaments and cash? Because I know you're like mainly a cash game player, but you are playing tournaments and doing well in tournaments. You had like third place in the World Series of Poker circuit event at Thunder Valley for like almost 70,000. So like, what are you adjusting your game at all for tournaments?
Oh, for sure, because people are approaching tournaments and cash games way different. Like the tournaments I play in Sacramento or the Bay Area, like in the first like probably 10 hours of the tournament, people just don't want to fold anything. So you actually have to get cards. But once you hit like the money or post money, people are just like holding on for dear life and don't want to bust. And that's where you have to start like kind of like putting a little bit of pressure on those guys, especially on pay jumps and stuff like that.
Yeah, the like min cashers just like hanging on with like 10 big blinds all the time. It's like a problem I have that I tried to change actually this year at the series. I studied before the series this year. I did a clinic with Andrew Barber and stuff, made 13th at the ladies event. And the whole time I was like, I'm not going in with this like mini stack. This is not the name of the game. Like I need to identify equity and roll with it. So it seems like a lot of the tournaments you're successful in, I mean, you did well in the 10K main event, but that's kind of like, does it play like a mid-level tournament?
The main? I'm gonna say yes, because I ran into more recreational players than I thought I was gonna run into, but I also got like some really, really big name pros on day 5, which yeah, I was like, whoa, like I felt a little outclassed and like had to kind of like meditate and psych my way through it. Just, understanding that I put a lot of work into my game too, and that I deserve to be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that tournament is way different than any of the other Bay Area tournaments I've ever played,
Why is that?
because of the caliber of like of pros, along with still having these like recreational players that like I've seen in the Bay Area.
So, speaking on that, how does it feel like right now you're the big fish in the pond, but do you ever feel like you're very comfortable here? And if you went to a different city, you might not be as good because there are different types of players there. Their exploits might be different. That there might be players that are better than you. Do you ever think that you might be doing yourself a disservice by just playing here on a regular basis?
Um, yeah, I'm not gonna say I'm the best poker player by any means. Like, I know there's tons of games in like Vegas, for instance, when I go for the World Series that I'm probably an underdog in, and that's okay. But if I truly wanted like to be a winning player in the game, I'd play the game often and put a lot of time into the game and figure out like how to beat the player pool. Like,
Does that motivate you at all when you feel like you're the underdog?
I'm a fighter. If I'm put into the cage and I'm the underdog and I'm forced to be there, like I will fight to the death. But I definitely pick my own battles now. Like, um, I'm very bet motivated. I kind of like prop bets a lot. Mm, but in terms of like battling a 5100 game in like Vegas, that's tough. Not really. I'm more looking out for my financial future than battling a bunch of tough regs.
So you're less about stroking your ego at this point, and you're more about just setting your own goals and reaching your own goals.
Correct. I do have an ego though. I think everybody has an ego, but
Yeah, I mean, you're a human.
mhm.
Yeah, it comes with the territory. So let's get a little bit into like your mental game, because I feel like you're a good amount. How old are you now? 27?
I just turned 27.
So you're 15 years younger than me, but like we started hanging out a lot when I moved to San Jose, and I started really admiring you. And actually, you're one of the people that I started coming to terms with not thinking about things in terms of age, and just like if there's a group of people that you're hanging out with, you have to show them respect and be a peer, and like respect them as a peer. And you're one of those people. I'm like, you know what? I have to get it out of my head that he's so much younger than me, because he's very successful, very determined, and I really respect all of those attributes. And so I want to know what you're doing for your mental game, because I'm sure like mentally you've had to change to lose weight. Mentally you've had to change to start setting goals, and then like improve relationships in your personal life and stuff. So like, what have you done mentally to prepare or to leverage yourself to where you are now?
Well, I am a huge David Goggins fan. I have to put that out there. He wrote a really good book called Can't Hurt Me. And I find myself in the mornings like listening to like a little 2 to 10 minute video of like just some motivational stuff, like a little compilation of David Goggins stuff, just purely for my own entertainment, but it kind of pumps me up. But I also have a morning routine every day where my alarm goes off no later than 9 a.m., sometimes earlier, depending on what time I get to sleep. Hit the alarm off, wash my face, brush my teeth, coffee, and I'm out the door within 10 minutes, whether I'm going to play tennis or going for a run. And as soon as I get back, straight to yoga. And then, yeah, poker from there. And like, I try not to break that routine. I do not go on my phone until I get back from my run.
Now, is any of this a part of a prop bet, or is this
No.
no?
And
This is just another thing.
I also make my bed every morning. I believe in like starting my day off with a win, and like that's the easiest way to get a win. And also, like, I'm quoting somebody, it was a guy in the army that set this, like, if you have a rough day, at least you have a nice bed to come home to, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, I do think when I first moved here, I was living in a place that was making me very unhappy. Just the surroundings, the area was very industrial, and like the building and the apartment, I was really unhappy, and it mentally um, upset me and made me depressed. And I moved to this place, and it's just made me extremely happy. Even when I have a bad day, I enjoy coming home to something, coming home to like a comfortable, beautiful place. And it's made a world of difference. So I totally get that. And
And sorry,
go ahead.
I was saying, like, I've always had this vision to like inspire people and like, share like, health journeys and stuff like that with the world. And like, I try my best to lead by example. So a lot of the things I do, like working out or putting in extra hours, and whether it's the gym or like tennis or poker, or even just like having a phone call with Patrick about like health and life and stuff, like that's all like for my like my long-term goals. And yeah.
So what are some of your long-term goals right now?
I well, I want to have kids one day, and when I have kids, I want to scale down in the amount of poker I play. So that's why I'm working so hard right now. I also want to open my own yoga business one day and lead a retreat outside the country. Um, I want to do a 100-mile race at some point in my life. Um,
I will wait for you at the end of the finish line with beer, because I wouldn't do that.
just to see, just to do it one time. And I want to travel the world. I traveled for the first time in October to Europe. I went to 6 different countries. I did a 10-day yoga retreat in Morocco, and that was probably some of the most fun I've ever had. I'm addicted to traveling now. And so, yeah, I'm going to try to plan at least one trip every year to go to somewhere different.
So you didn't play poker at all on your yoga retreat that you just took in Morocco, right?
No,
And did you play poker at all in Europe while you were there?
I played one day in Austria. Me and a buddy, Aaron, just the casino was like walking distance, so we just went to go play 1-2 for a little bit, but nothing serious.
Was it important for you to mentally take a break from what you do as a job to have that vacation as like your mental relaxation point, or what was that for?
Um, that was just another thing that my buddy Aaron just brought up and thought it would be cool for us to do. And I trust the guy with my life, so I did it. It was very hard the first few days of the trip, not knowing what we were going to do, like not having an itinerary, not having a routine to follow. Like it was just like everything was out of place for me. Because
Oh, I didn't know that. I
I
didn't
was
know he just
surprised.
like gave you your surprise. Here's your agenda.
Yeah, like every day, like we would look up something to do, and I'd be like, man, this is not what I'm used to. I'm used to having such a structured day, you know?
So that sounds a little bit like you've taken yourself out of your comfort zone. Is that something that you would recommend on a regular basis? Because you told me that like you run in the rain now. You play when you're tilted, and you like mentally try to get yourself through these rough spots. Is that like something that you think has been beneficial?
Yes, I do. And even like something as hard as like meditating is so hard for me because I'm always trying to figure out, oh, how should I be sitting? How should my breathing be? And like all these other things. And then a friend of mine told me, he's like, can I share with you what I think meditation is? And I said, sure. And he said, it's the art of doing nothing.
Yeah,
And
clearing your mind.
and I just sat there and I'm like, holy shit, that makes so much sense. And like even then, even now during my meditation practices, like it's made it a lot easier because I just stop asking myself all these questions. I'm just okay sitting there until my little alarm clock goes off.
I know you and I had a prop bet, and I gave you a few free rolls one week where something that makes you uncomfortable. You took cold showers every day for, I think it was like a couple minutes each day.
Yes.
And I don't even think it was summertime. Like, I think
It was
it was,
cold.
Yeah, it was cold. And I was running 3 miles every morning before work that week. And I actually ended up running that whole weekend before and the whole weekend after. And I did quite a few miles in total. And I was doing like even 4 miles on the weekends. And so then I give you a free roll after that. So I think prop bets are a good way to get yourself in good shape. I ended up having a prop bet with CJ long term where I paid him $100 every time I ate something sweet, except for once a week I could have dessert. And I paid him, I think, twice in like 4 months. Do you think that prop bets are a good way to do it?
I think they're a fantastic way to do it as long as both parties are in line with, how prop bets actually work.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a prop bet with Aaron this month where I can't eat meat in the casino. I'm actually trying to learn how to cook. So I've been buying a bunch of, grass-fed, grass-finished, no antibiotics and hormones ever meat, and just like buying vegetables and cooking that at home. And then at casinos, I'll eat as bland as possible, just like steamed vegetables, eggs, and like,
Yeah,
yeah.
you've been sending me some snaps. I actually I've been trying to reduce how much I'm spending, and I cook all my own food at home too, most like 90% of the time now. And like, dude, I'm eating filet mignon steaks for like $13. It's
I
like
realized how cheap it was. Oh my
it's so cheap. I make food for like 3 days, sometimes for like $15. I'm like, dude, I can't even get a lunch for $15 in Silicon Valley.
I know the casino is like 21 bucks like after tip for like nothing. Something that
Yeah.
like I wouldn't pay $3 at the grocery store for.
Right. So yeah, I mean, these are just like small scores. And like I saw someone tweet yesterday that like, hey, if you spend $27 and something cents a day, that's 10,000 a year. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be fucking broke. And so I'm like, I cut out going for coffee. I go once a week for coffee, and I make my own tea at home. I make my own food. I'm fasting from dinner to breakfast every day, and I only eat twice a day now. I know you and Andrew got me on that. And speaking of Andrew, like if we're going to talk about prop bets, he always talks about the best way to go about doing things is like putting your money where your mouth is. And like it is a good motivation to I think I got the best shape I've been in the last 3 years when I was like giving you a free roll for my running and giving CJ a free roll and prop betting with him for my desserts. So I definitely think that's GTO. Um, let's talk about work-life balance. I feel like a lot of what we've talked about is um, things outside of poker and poker, but it's hard to I think for some young players it's hard for them to like split that pie up in a meaningful way where they're spending enough time with themselves or improving themselves. Or talk to me about how you find a work-life balance and what you think that ratio is.
Well, I took pretty much last year. I only played about 1,165 hours of cash, some tournaments, and I felt like that was one of my most productive years of my life because of how many different things I did outside of poker. And although I strive to play a good amount of hours, like I've really found a lot of joy in doing things like visiting my parents, going to watch my little brother play tennis because he's a collegiate tennis player in his junior year right now. Hanging out with friends, like I've even left a lot of decent games to go to a tennis practice that like because I really enjoy tennis. So it's it's just like sacrificing some EV money wise for life EV. And I think in terms of my overall happiness, like it's done wonders. I'm still meeting my bottom line in terms of what I'd like to make per year while still getting to do all these socially fun things. Like last weekend, I actually went to San Diego to surprise my little brother at his opening match for UC San Diego, and he was so happy I was there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, it sounds to me how I'm interpreting it is that if you are playing, you're playing better games. And when you're off, you're doing more, you're not like sitting around and watching TV. you're doing things
Never.
with your life. You're doing things that are will lead to some sort of self-improvement.
Yep. And like, or just overall happiness. Like after yoga today, like I went to get lunch with a friend of mine. Just she moved here from Texas, and like it's not like I was looking for a relationship or anything. She's married, but I was like, she seems like a pretty cool person. And I spent 4 hours talking with her about life and just like I would have never met her if I was just like, oh, I need to hurry up and get to the card room and see a flop. And
Right.
that's why I've met so many cool people in the last like 13 months. Is kind of like that mentality.
So you talked about visiting your parents, and I know that you've said that you had like a rocky relationship with your parents in the past, and that you've really worked on that. And you said it was okay to talk about it.
Yep.
So why don't you tell me, what your relationship with your parents used to be like and how it's changed and why it's changed?
Probably about 8 years ago, I hit a bad beat jackpot in poker, got about $50,000, and my parents ended up stealing my money. And I didn't find out that they took it until I saw. I think my mom's computer was open, and I saw a deposit in her account for some large amount of money, and she didn't have a job at the time. And it, man, that like that had me so tilted. Like I was at the point where I thought my brothers were stealing from me, and one of my brothers was like 14 at the time. And I ended up moving out. This is the time I was transferring to the university in the Bay Area, and I moved to Oakland with this like mentality of like I can't trust anybody. My lifelong goal will be to make all the money back, and like I'll see you in like 20 years. And then like 5 years later, like I devoted all my life to poker. All my holidays were spent playing poker. Like I didn't even celebrate my birthday like a couple of years just because I wanted to go see some flops. And then like 2017, like I just started feeling lonely all of a sudden. Like, and then I did some personal development work and finally decided to go talk to my parents again. And that was a rough talk. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of blaming, a lot of just like just very uncomfortable conversations. And
Did you tell them, hey, I know you stole from me? Or did you ask them
yes,
why?
I did. And like my mom and dad told me that family is family, and that we share. Because my dad explained to me like when Vietnam, like him and his brothers just shared everything they had. They didn't have very much, but what's my brother's is mine. And I understand my dad's had it very rough, whereas myself, like I've been very fortunate my whole life. And like so I more came to forgive him for you know taking my money.
Yeah. Now you said that you went through some sort of personal growth, or what did you say? You had some personal growth, and then you decided to approach your parents. What was that you did?
It's a place called Choice Center in Vegas. I think a lot of poker players from Vegas have actually heard of it. It's a
Right.
personal development program that focuses on educating in terms of emotional intelligence. But instead of just like sitting there and like taking notes and listening, you're actively learning. So you're doing activities that teach you this like overall theme of emotional intelligence, however way it looks to you. And for me, it kind of taught me like why I am the way I am based on my childhood experience and like how I've grown up. I'm trying not to like kind of spoil it, so I'm being very vague. Um,
I mean,
but
I think that there's a lot to the details. I think it's fine to give us the details. I mean, like I've taken a few emotional intelligence classes. Actually, my work offers them. And I always thought that I was a very emotionally intelligent person. And then I took the class and I realized how many leaks I actually had. And not only has it helped me um, with my professional life, but it's also, I'm like working towards, I mean, you know, some of the things that I've struggled through in my life, like with my son and, you know, relationships ending. And I still struggle with that even at my age. And I think I will for the rest of my life, but it definitely helped me on a professional level to have like an increased empathy, or just to see where other people's values lie. And then you can kind of meet them where they are, rather than having an expectation of other people to just like understand what you mean by what you say. So you went to choice, you developed some emotional intelligence, um, and that helped you talk to your parents.
Correct.
And so you forgave them. And how has your relationship been since?
Fantastic. I go visit them probably once every few weeks. We'll get dinner together, like we'll have coffee in the morning together, and it's just way more pleasant now that we kind of got that off our chest, because like there's really nothing to hide anymore. Like, I mean, I live my life, they live theirs, you know, there's still, but the amount of tension that there was, because, you know, both parties knew what the hell was going on, it's kind of gone because it's been talked about. And I
Yeah.
realize how powerful it is to communicate in like the most stressful situations. And I still have trouble talking about it now, because like that feeling that it kind of brings up like in my chest, like, you know, when I think about what happened, is it's it's not very comfortable.
Right. I kind of feel like financially, um, being fucked over financially, and I have a few times in my life, by like a firm that I was investing with, and then, you know, certain relationships I've been in. And it's almost like if you were in a relationship, it's like feeling like you got cheated on, or it's like one of the worst feelings you could have towards someone. um yeah, I mean, like, forgiveness has been a huge part of my life, and moving on, and not like letting it sit and boil in resentment. I don't know, have you found ways to forgive, or?
So I was just thinking that a lot of people might think like, wow, like that's so sad that happened to you, but like that was one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me, because if that wouldn't have happened, I would not have developed that drive and determination to like put the amount of hours in that I did, because I only put that amount of hours in because I was in search of like making as much money as I can, and like I devoted my life to work, and like I wouldn't have developed the skills I would have if like that event wouldn't have happened. So, you know, anything that's happened in my life, like I don't like to think of them as good or bad. They're just more part of my life.
You know, that's a really interesting take, because I think people tend to look at negative things as bad and good things as influential. But if you look back, I would say there were a lot of bad things that, like, I've taken and I've tried to make the best of the outcome and improve. And like, I would say, not to make this about me, but just in this one instance, like my son's passing, I don't know if I had the gratitude for life and friends that I have now before he passed. Or I think I was a little more self-absorbed, or a lot more. You know, and there's just a lot of shifts, and like less caring for material things, or like wanting material gifts. Those things don't like appeal to me anymore. And so I I totally get that. I wouldn't say it was the best thing that happened to me, but I totally get how you can make a positive out of a bad situation, and you guys have repaired your relationship, and that's good. Um, were your brothers affected at all? Did your brothers like get mad at your parents for doing that?
It was more in the sense of like, damn, like I feel bad for you, Adam, but like I don't know what I can do. Um, maybe not the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life, but like all the like sad or like tough things in my life have been kind of the biggest lessons for me. Just because I think there's a lot more growth in like uncomfortability than like, you know, being in 72-degree weather.
Right, right. You prefer the cold shower events in your life.
Yeah, they help a lot. Even though when I turn the cold shower, I'm just staring at it for like a minute. I'm like, damn, I don't want to get in here. And it never gets any better either.
You know, you're kind of inspiring me because I feel like I've gotten to like a little bit too comfortable of a place in my life, and I get anxious getting out of that comfort zone. And I used to be a lot more open to discomfort. So maybe I should, maybe you're inspiring me now. Um, so one more thing I wanted to talk to you about, and I have a feeling that it might go back to choice and emotional intelligence. And you talked to me about struggle, or you messaged me and you said you wanted to talk about struggle with intimate relationships and personal relationships. Do you want to indulge us with that?
Yeah, like in my 27 years of living, I've not dated more than like 7 months in a row or something like that. Like I haven't had a relationship longer than 7 months. I've probably been on only like 20 something dates in my life, and probably like maybe 3 or 4 second dates. So I have not really been pursuing women in the way that hmm, in the way that I kind of envision like a relationship to look, especially as a guy in, my late 20s. This year I'm planning on putting a lot more work into my social life and my intimate life, and I actually have a bet with Aaron this month that I can't watch porn. Eh, why not?
I don't think I'd take that bet. Look, so, I think there's like a misconception, and I had it at one point in my life, that like the relationship's just going to happen, and you're going to end up just getting married, and like everything works out. And like everything else in life, it's work, and you have to put in work into relationships. You have to put in work into looking good and feeling good and being someone that people want to be around, right? Are you doing anything to like improve your chances of getting into a relationship?
So I've improved my wardrobe selection. I think you've seen that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm
I'm
going
going
to
to put
more.
up a picture of you at my birthday party last year looking like a stunner.
I'm taking more chances in like the places that I'm normally at, like my yoga studio, like my tennis leagues. Like I'm trying to stay out of the poker room, but going to more social events and talking to more women. I actually have one of my friends is coming in on Wednesday. She's an interior designer, or she's really good at that, doing that kind of stuff. So she's
Hmm.
gonna help me organize my room and like buy furniture to make it look really nice. Um,
Wow.
I'm pretty much trying to have my place and my car look as well as like look good in the sense that like I'm okay bringing a date over here without fixing anything, you
Yeah.
know?
So
So
one thing that I noticed, because being a professional poker player, your hours can be odd, or like some of the games where you're getting the most EV are on like Friday and Saturday evenings. How do you think that might affect like a relationship potential?
that's the tough part about it. Like a lot of my hours that I play are like 12 to like, 10, whereas like, a normal worker gets off at 5 and then, might want to spend time with me. But like if the game's good, I have to say I can't, or I have to make that sacrifice. And that's why when I'm looking for a partner, I'm looking for someone who supports what I do, like even though it's going to get a little rocky, because I have been in a relationship where like they were just kind of like, "Oh, you play poker, okay," and I could tell that like they're just like, "Fuck this is bad." And then it goes from me to trying to explain it all the time, and then it's to getting frustrated.
Um, so I think that with that, if we want to get into detail, there needs to be a good amount of trust, because being gone for an extremely long period of time, or being gone in like date night times, can be tough on a partner who doesn't play poker. Because you said like you're trying to avoid the poker rooms, and to me, I've always seen poker players date people who are in the industry or have similar work hours,
Hmm.
and um, it seems like it would be a little tougher with someone who's non-poker world-ish. Does that make sense?
I agree with that. And I wouldn't say I would never date a poker player or somebody in the poker room, but I think it's kind of like a don't shit where you eat kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
it's my workplace. Like the more awkward I make it for myself, like I don't know, like it's supposed to be like my second home. You also spoke into the trust thing.
Right.
And I think only in the last like few years, like I've started to build that trust in the sense that my friends, when they see me like go out and drink, they're like, Adam should go out and drink. He's got everything figured out. He's gonna just bounce right back and get back to his workouts. Whereas when I was like overweight, you know, and like drinking a lot and like going to raves a lot, people would see me go to a rave and be like, oh my God, he's doing it again. You know, like it's kind of like you have to earn that trust that people know you're going to be fine, even if you're having like a bad meal or going out drinking for a day.
I kind of, I mostly agree with that, but I think that trust should be the default. I think he should start with trust. Like you can't start off a relationship being berated for like playing every Friday night. You know what I mean? It should start off, I trust you. And then if that changes, that, you know, there, you have to reevaluate. But like, I don't think that, I think the trust that you're talking about as far as like lifestyle with your friends, that's a different trust than a relationship where you're gone all Friday night and potentially till like 6 in the morning if the game is good. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
actually, that's funny because I had a boyfriend through all of my 20s, and how I started playing poker was he played poker, and he would play poker all night long. And I was like, what is this guy doing? And so one day I visited him at the casino. I'm like, oh, it's just a bunch of grimy guys. And then I sat behind him and I watched him play. And then I started like watching poker on TV, and I thought looked fun, and I started playing. So and I never bugged him again because I was like, ah, well, it's just a bunch of grimy guys. And the casino he played at was like pretty grimy. So, there was a time where let's talk about weight, if that's okay. Because I
More
think
than okay.
it's like it's a holistic thing. I think in general, like having a perfect um, level of play in one part of your life being perfect and other things are lacking, it's not going to work. And I notice you have like a really nice balanced range in life. So let's start with your weight. You used to be overweight. What was your heaviest weight?
225 pounds in December of 2012.
Wow. So how much do you weigh now?
145.
Wow. That's huge. I mean,
That's
kind
actually
of
not
literally, right?
huge.
No, that's a huge weight loss. So like, tell me what your strategies have been. Like, what did you have an aha moment? Did you just like feel like shit all the time and decided you needed to make a change? What happened?
Well, I definitely had shortness of breath when I was overweight. Um, I would often sweat doing the simplest things, even like eating. And
Wow.
yeah, and then I also had a lot of trouble sleeping. I don't know why, but I would always get woken up, and I think it had something to do with like snoring or like my breathing while sleeping.
You're probably having some apnea episodes.
Maybe.
Yeah. So now you're sleeping okay. Did you surround yourself with people who were making positive lifestyle changes, or did you influence the people around you, or what was the initial starting of that?
So I think anybody who's ever been overweight can relate to me on this one. I've tried losing weight my whole entire life, and I never truly found the thing that worked for me until I thought of, well, until a couple people came in my life. One being my freshman year college tennis coach, who, when I went to him, it was 2013. I was a zero point 0.0 GPA student. We can get to that story later. I was pretty much a high school dropout that somehow graduated high school. I was 225 pounds. I pretty much had nothing to my name except a little bit of poker skill. And this coach was a little bit different than all the other ones I had. I felt like a lot of coaches in my life pretty much just wanted me to win, so it makes them look a little bit better. This coach actually helped me in school, helped me fix my schedule. Like and like Andy was rooting for me to do well, whether that meant winning, giving 100%, or just being a good teammate. And like I genuinely felt like he cared about me. And so I started working hard for him because I was pretty much just trying to please him. And then I noticed a few changes in my body and it actually felt pretty good. And so I just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, so now you're running quite a bit and doing yoga. And I know you were trying to get your yoga instructor's certification. How's that going?
It actually starts February 15th.
So you're
So I'm
starting
just
your training, or you?
training.
Okay, cool. I know that you got me into some hot yoga, and like I almost died a few times. I went quite a bit, and then I was like, I'm too close to death every time I go.
To your credit, you went to a bunch of hard classes.
So just to let everyone know, the very first class or the second class that Adam took me to, people were literally like in a human pretzel on their head, upside down. And I was like, what the fuck is going
I'm still like, what the hell's going on there? Because I can't do any of that stuff.
on? Yeah, so that's cool. So you're one of these people that has the best ability to have a work-life balance. So that's like yoga, you're doing running. And I remember one thing that struck me was I asked you, like, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to get out of everything? Or what do you want to do? And you were like, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. So like, when did that mind shift get to you that your goal was happiness?
I I decided to explore like what could possibly make me happy, and this idea of making a lot of money sounded very appealing to me because it's something I've never had. And so I devoted probably 3 or 4 years to just working nonstop and making as much money as I can, thinking that was gonna kind of satisfy this like search for happiness. And little to my knowledge, it actually made me very lonely because I kind of checked in with myself at the end of those 4 years of just playing probably 3,000 hours a year, and kind of felt like I was missing out like socially. Like I was way out of shape. And I was like, man, like all I have like to recall in these last 4 years is like, some amount of money. And so I started exploring other things in life, hobbies, starting with tennis. And I started finding a lot of joy in that, even though I left tennis because I really hated it. And so since then, I've met a couple great people in my life, one of them being Aaron McCormick from Sacramento. And he's a guy, another one of my big supporters of my health and like weight loss goals. And he's been nothing but good to me. And so all my new hobbies are pretty much because I trusted him, and he just said, just go try this out for a couple weeks or a month or whatever. And so my yoga, running, traveling ventures have pretty much all been because he just recommended it and I've just blindly trusted him.
Yeah, and he's a professional poker player in the Sacramento area, is he not?
Correct. A
Yeah,
very good professional.
very good professional. So you basically have surrounded yourself with key people that are helping you move forward. Um, Let me ask you, if you had a friend in your group who was um, not bringing you down, but didn't have the same goals as you, that was a little more degen, that was trying to encourage a bad lifestyle, would you, at this point in your life, not exit yourself from that relationship? Would you not stay friends with them? Are you looking to have like a circle of friends that are going to be in the same direction as you're going?
Ah, what's really funny is I just talked with a friend the other day that kind of met this criteria. Um, he really reminded me of my younger self when I talked to him, just because the things we are both doing these days are way different than back then, where we were pretty much doing the same thing in terms of goals.
Right.
And so I'm not going to say I don't want to be friends with him anymore, because I think that's very mean. I think I can be friends with everybody. But my expectations of the relationship are different. like he's one of the guys I would go out and have a beer with or go out and like have fun with, but I don't think I would be like doing business with him or like, discussing like my life goals with him or something along the lines of that.
Have you, in this process, started mentoring anyone else to try to get to the level that you're at?
In poker or
Well, just in
open
general, in
business?
any part of it, because I know you're doing poker is one part of you that you're very successful at, but you're successful in yoga and physical fitness and investing your money. Is there anyone that you're mentoring in any of those areas?
So a friend of mine actually reached out to me and Aaron. His name is Patrick, and he reached out to us saying like, "Hey, like, I'm dangerously overweight. I'm 330 pounds, and I'm 30 years old and 6'1". I'm just giving you the extra details. And I noticed that you helped Adam lose a lot of weight, and you guys are both like really into health and fitness now. Can you help me out?" And me and Aaron thought it'd be a really cool idea to shoot a documentary on him because I wish I had a lot of pictures or video like of like me through my transformation, which I do not. And then he was just like, "Sure, that sounds like a fantastic idea." So we shot the pilot 8 months ago of him doing his first yoga class, his first workout, film of his house, what it looks like, how his diet was. And fast forward 8 months later, he's doing yoga 2 or 3 days a week. He does a strength workout once a week. His diet's cleaned up and he's at 260 pounds. And we're
Yeah.
actually going to shoot the middle of the documentary in the next month or two. Oh, and he's back in school, about to get his bachelor's degree in poli-sci.
Yeah, I went for dinner with him when I was in Sacramento like a month ago, and he was looking really good and he was quite happy with everything. So that's pretty amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast or the conversation or my show or whatever I'm calling this. I really appreciate your time. I will be seeing you soon, hopefully. I haven't seen a lot of you in the last few months since we both moved.
You're so busy these days.
Yeah, and we used to live so close, and now I'm like mucho sad. So we used to have like family dinner night every Sunday. What happened?
You or CJ needs to host because I live so far away from you guys.
I tried to host, and you were in San Diego. Let's do it this Sunday.
It's Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, we could do it afterwards because the Super Bowl is at 3 and it probably will end at 7. So
yeah, let's do a late night dinner at my place. I'll
it
host.
doesn't even have to be late. It could just be at 8.
Okay, that's late, but yeah. Best laugh ever. All right, thank you so much, Adam. Have a great night.
Thank you very much, Veronica. I still need you to teach me how to cook this year. I'm working very hard on that. And I'm kind of
I can, if you want, we can schedule like a Sunday and do a clinic. Like we can cook like some of the I know you like my salmon pasta. We can cook like a few things and write down the recipes and like do appetizers and then a main dish. You can take all of it home and like I can talk to you about some of the stuff I learned from my mom. And my mom's cooking is not like straight out of a recipe type cooking. Her cooking is like you put your ingredients in, you taste it, and put it in, and you taste it, because you have to adjust your ingredients based on how many people are going to be attending dinner. And also, I think like different ovens bring out not necessarily different flavors, but different temperatures, which you have to adjust some of your ingredients because like they can cause either heaviness within the, if you're making meatballs. Which there were times where I made meatballs so often
every
you're
time.
like, no meatballs, no more meatballs. But salmon pasta, that dish you like, I can teach you how to make it. It's like the easiest dish I have.
You said you put something special in it that like
no, that's my edamame.
Oh yeah,
that's my secret ingredient. I can tell you my secret ingredient, but you can't tell anyone.
Not on here.
Not on here. No, I'm saying if you come over and we spend a day cooking and eating and like we can do wine tasting with
We'll
some of
have
the
that be
meals.
part of the final.
Oh yeah. We'll
At,
record it. Yeah, that'd be cool.
at the end of the semester, we'll have like a live feed of me cooking, and we'll see how I do.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, I got a new olive oil. I have to get you a bottle. It's fire. It's literally the best olive oil I've ever had in my life. I'm going to get some more this weekend. I'm going to get you a bottle.
Oh, I'll get to try it out on Saturday.
Fire. I
use
can't stop eating it.
you ever use avocado oil?
So avocado oil I use for high heat cooking.
You have different oils used for different cooking.
Right. So different oils, like cold pressed virgin oils, you don't want to use for cooking. You don't want to use extra virgin olive oil on cooking. That's only like a dry, like a cold oil. So you need to have special oils for high heat cooking or butter.
So ghee butter you could use for high heat cooking?
I don't know about ghee because that's a vegan one, right?
Yes.
Look it up. It should say on the container what type of temperature it can go to, because that if you burn like a low heat oil, like an extra virgin olive oil, if you cook it at a high temperature, I've heard it can be carcinogenic.
Oh shit.
It's not meant to be used that way. I like.
What,
I'd have to look up studies. I can't confirm that, but it's not. You're not supposed to use the oil that way.
so coconut oil is not a high heat oil either, right?
You can get high heat coconut oil that you can cook that has to be processed. They have to process the oil, or you can just use it at low heats or just like room temperature as butter. I would say if you want to cook with high heat, just use butter.
Okay.
It's literally the best thing. You can get organic butter without like any salt added, like sweet cream butter.
I need to go shopping with you.
If you buy milk, like whole milk from a farm, you will have like this much thick cream on top that if you whip it enough turns into butter.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Dude, like my grandmother, when I'd visit her in Poland, would fucking slaughter animals in front of me. Like I grew up with like being able to cook every part of an animal. Like I remember when we were in Canada, when we first immigrated, my mom told me there were times where she had like $5 to feed us for like 3 days. We were fucking broke. And she would go to the butcher and she would be like, anything, or if you're throwing any part of that animal away, I'll take it. And then like, what's your cheapest meat? And like, she'd come home with like chicken hearts. I remember this one time and she made soup out of chicken hearts. And I was like, Mom, what is this? She's like, it's chicken. Eat. Veronica. Why you ask questions? And like, I was literally eating foods that now are considered like really nutritious. Like I was eating a lot of liver. It's got more vitamin C than like oranges. I was eating like a ton of like the different organs in an animal and hearts, and I'm pretty sure I ate a fucking brain. I think my mom lied to me. My mother's a butcher, like, so I grew up with her being able to utilize every single part of an animal. And, I never ate like just like chicken breast with no skin. Like we ate everything. So it was kind of a good thing. I can't remember what my point was. All right. I'm going to let you go home. I'm going to actually take some of this and like put it into the interview too, because I think it's nice when it goes like more organic. All right. So that was awesome. You did a great job. I hope that I did a good enough interview. I hope that you feel like you got enough of it out.
You're very good at talking.
Really?
I am nervous as shit when I'm talking.
I'm nervous as shit. I'm like, okay, he just said something. Remember that, because you want to ask him after that. And then, yeah, I'm nervous as shit too. And I also I've been watching different interviewers, and like the ones that I think are really good, I'm trying to see what their like strategies are. And I'm trying to be like very focused and involved in the conversation, but at the same time, I don't want to like overstep like if you're talking, I don't want to turn it into something about me. So I'm trying to give people enough time to talk. And so I'm working on a few things, but hopefully it'll turn into something. I've been putting out one video a week. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, what number am I? Am I number 4?
Of interviews?
Yeah.
I did Andrew. I did T-Bone twice. I think you're number 3.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Lucky
So when I
number
become
3.
a big shoot, we can look back at this. You'll have to come
Yeah,
back
like
on.
15 years later.
Oh
I'll be
God.
You're the
Oh
next
God.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I'll finally like make $1 million like the day before I retire. Fucking be broke all my life. Are you going to the casino now?
No fucking way. I am going to make dinner right now. I have a ribeye in the fridge, some sugar snap peas, mushrooms, and broccolini. How would you
Dude,
cook that?
so I try to eat my vegetables as raw as possible.
I just do avocado oil and then throw it on there, and then
So
do low heat.
I learned how to make filet mignon now on the stovetop and then in the oven, and it's fucking phenomenal. It's better
Do you
than
do
any restaurant.
the stove first or the oven first? Because I'm
I do
doing
the
oven
stove
first.
first. So
Oh,
here's what you do. So I put the stove on high. You need a cast iron skillet.
you sear it.
So you put butter in there and then let the butter burn a little bit till it's brown. And then you're going to need to put
Oh,
your fan on.
okay.
Once it's brown, put the filet mignon. I usually cook 2 at a time. Put the filet mignon on one side for 2 to 3 minutes. Then the other side, 2 to 3 minutes. And then each like on the outside for like 1 minute. Then put it in the oven at 400 degrees. You have to heat the oven before you start anything because
Of
it needs to
course.
be 400 degrees for 10 minutes. If it's
10
one
minutes?
steak, yeah. If it's one steak, then do like 5 minutes.
I have one steak.
Yeah. But you don't have a filet mignon, so that's different.
I have a ribeye.
Yeah, ribeye would be like, I don't know, I think less than 5 minutes. I would look it up because ribeye you can make it too tough if you overheat it too quickly.
Okay. Because I was
So
actually going to do 270 in the oven and then leave it for like 10 minutes and then sear it on the thing.
do you ever open up Pinterest? Seriously, it's the best app for like giving you strategies for cooking.
I usually just use YouTube, but I probably should be using Pinterest. You know what happens every time I use Pinterest? I notice that I'm missing something. Like I don't have a cast iron skillet. I'm just using a pan.
But
And so I'm planning on doing some shopping for all that stuff like eventually.
okay, so let me talk to you about cast iron skillet. So I have a pan that my cast iron skillet got ruined at the last place, and so I had to get rid of it. I have a pan right now that's like just below the tier of a cast iron skillet because I bought it at one of those like home kitchen stores and it's like really high end. I can put it in the oven and everything.
Oh,
Cast
okay.
iron skillet, they're so overpriced, it's ridiculous. If you buy a cast iron skillet, go to a kitchen store and ask for their no name brand of cast iron skillets. You can get a really good one for like $30, $25. They charge like up to $150 for them. You don't need to pay that much. Just get
Hmm.
like the no name brand, nothing on it. And then they usually come just like plain and the whole cast iron is like even to the handle. Just buy a rubber thing to put over top of it so you're not burning yourself. And that's it. Like you don't have to buy an expensive cast iron skillet. What kind of steak do you have? Ribeye?
Yeah. Hold on. I think I either have the New York. Sorry, I either have a ribeye or a New York in there, and then the other one's in the freezer. So I'm actually thinking it's the New York steak. Otherwise, yeah, I'm like more than happy to not play on the weekends. I always try to schedule something to do on the weekends. Like I don't know, I've been like just going to get lunch with like girls at my studio lately. Just kind of fucking meet some people, you know?
Yeah. I I actually when I was more social, I used to love just like meeting new people and just like hearing their story And that's one thing I loved about traveling. Like you go into these little mom and pop shops, and the old person in there has like a story, and like when they met their wife, and like what their family did, and like what happened to their family during the war and stuff like that. um, People's stories like are really intriguing, and I'm trying to like think of a strategy to make myself less. I'm starting to become like more socially inept and like more introverted.
Go to Burning
And
Man.